know who's next door, don't you?
Who?
Richard Hammond.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah.
Get some sorted. Do you need any advice? Or, you know, what when you're in the car, I'll just try and work out where.
I've taken part in the Vintage Sports Car Club's Pomeroy Trophy for the last 3 previous years in my Corvette C6, and every year I seem to be involved in a good dice with this GT40, so it was good to catch up with the driver and show him some of the footage from the previous year.
Yes, yeah. So you're on Historics as well, so you know how to bring it from. You get to a straight, it's got.
This year the Corvette would get a break, and instead I'll be using my new-to-me 2003 Mustang SVT Cobra, also known as the Terminator.
Yeah, no, it's not going to be anywhere near as good as the Corvette, but it's something different. Yeah, exactly.
Hugely powerful, but also heavy, and it's a near enough a stock road car with a roll cage. This would be its first time on track, so I really didn't know what to expect, other than 40 minutes would be quite hard for it.
That's not going to work. That's not going to work. Oh no, this one's no good either. Look, that one puts it too far back. Is this worth filming?
Yeah.
Is it?
Because you've made a mistake.
Oh. So what we'll be doing is getting you into your cars. You do need to be fully dressed this morning. So we do need you with your gloves and your overalls and your hats and everything.
The Pomeroy Trophy is a unique event. It started back in 1952 as a test to decide the best touring car in the world. The morning tests include a braking test, a quarter mile, a flying quarter, and a slalom. I started the 40-minute race from the second row with more than 30 cars behind me. In front were the very fast GT40 and a modern Porsche 911 Turbo, and all sorts of cars behind, from near standard road cars and race cars on a mixture of tyres. We've got plenty of power in a straight line, but with me on board, the car weighs nigh on 1,800 kilos, and that's definitely telling on a racetrack, but it was still good fun. And you can start to hear some tyre squeal. I was using Yokohama V105 road tyres, and considering they're not a pure track tyre, they hung on really well. Everything was going well for the first 2 laps. I was holding 3rd overall, and the car felt great until the brake pedal started to go long. hatching, but with more than 450 horsepower from the 4.6 litre V8 supercharged engine, I was just able to keep ahead of them using Silverstone's long straight. By the end of the fourth lap, the brakes were seriously overheating. I had to pump the pedal hard to avoid a crash here. Although I eased off for half a lap, the brakes were still too hot and the big stop at Village was just too much, and you can see I narrowly avoided a crash. That was actually the first time I've ever been through a gravel trap in more than 20 years of competition. So I gave myself a bit of a talking to. I stayed offline down the Wellington Straight to avoid shedding gravel on the racing line, and then I decided I wasn't going to give up, but I would do a good cool down lap to really get those brake temperatures under control. So after a lap or two of cooling down, the brake pressure returned and I was caught by this beautiful yellow early 70s 911 RS driven by a man I know, experienced racer, Josh Sadler. So we had a little bit of fun. It was frustrating not being able to fully take the fight to him, having to ease off early, do a little bit of lift and coast, but we had a good couple of laps battling. I was once again having to pump the brake pedal to build pressure. Not ideal when you're reaching speeds of 145 or more down the straight and you've got a very expensive Porsche in hot pursuit. The moment I hit the brakes at the end of the straight, I knew I would have a problem. There just isn't enough runoff at this corner, and I just had to keep turning and pitch the car into a spin to get it to slow down. But as you can see, it was a close run thing. decided that was enough. I'd had some fun, it was better to call it a day, retire early to the pits before I was going to damage the car, or worse still, damage somebody else's. So I decided in my head I was going to do a full cool down lap and bring it into the pits. However, on my way back to the pits, I passed these two unfortunate drivers that had retired their car, and it had brought out a red flag, which ended the session, and we all queued up at the start finish line, waited for about 10 minutes for the track to clear, and then we got to go again. Now, in the meantime, my brake temperatures had fully recovered, so once again I thought, well, I've paid my money, it's a privilege to race at Silverstone in a supercharged Mustang, let's give it a try, but use utmost caution. So, at the restart, I made up plenty of places and the car felt great. It wasn't too long before I was back with the 911 and a pair of well-driven Morgans. It was a little bit frustrating not being able to brake as hard or as late as I wanted to, and I was having to go into the corners and scrub off speed with armfuls of understeer, but hey, it was still great fun. This time the brakes failed with almost no warning, so that was it. It was a good time to stop before any damage occurred. After all, after the competition I had to drive it home and to work the next day. Now you might be thinking, why on earth did I take such an unsuitable, near standard car to a racetrack and expect it to survive for 40 minutes? Well, you've got a good point, but life is about experiences, trying new things. And you know, despite the spins and the cool down laps, I still managed to achieve 14 laps, just one shy of my target. And if I hadn't have pulled into the pits and stayed out on track for just another few hundred meters, I actually would have taken the finish line and achieved my target number of laps, which I think is good going.